foremost, I'd actually like to thank John and Lynn. You're probably well aware that they manage the AVIC network for us and do the accreditation, so I'd like to say thank you very much. My name's Peter Lipman, and as I said, I am the manager of Visitor Services for Destination New South Wales. There we go. If you look on the, conference package, you'll see that I'm presenting two pieces of research, which is the New South Wales Visitor Information Servicing Report, and you'll also see that I'm also presenting the tourist signposting research. Now, unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond our control, I am unable to present the visitor servicing research report. That will be available, the executive summary will be available at the end of this month. And what I've said to John is that I will personally email every one of you that report when it's available. It's quite a substantial report. For an executive summary, it's 16 pages. It's quite detailed. It goes into quite a bit of detail about information, what visitors require, their expectation of visitor information centres. So when that's available, I'm more than happy to send it to you, each and every one, individually. I'm sure John said he will send me a list of delegates. But what I can talk about is the research that we've done recently with the tourist signposting. Tourist signposting is incredibly important. If anyone drove from the airport this morning or this afternoon, I don't know if anyone had a few issues getting here. Maybe it was just me, but I actually took a few wrong turns. It's incredibly important for the visitor. With the tourist signposting itself, you're probably well aware that there are three types of signposting on the roads. The green on white signs, we all pretty well know those. They're the advanced signage research, direction signage. Lets you know in advance where you're heading. The blue signs, the service signs, now my colleague David Douglas does tell me that that's blue. It looks a bit purple to me. He tells me that's blue. But what the research focused on is, it's the brown and white signs, the tourist signposting. What is the purpose of tourist signposting? It's to, first and foremost, indicate to motorists what the attractions are in your area. Establishing features of places, major tourist attractions, and it can also detail any themed routes and welcome the visitor to New South Wales and its regions. There's some examples of signposting that you'll see throughout New South Wales. You might be aware of some of those icons. You might have seen them on the roads. They're not all the icons that we use. Any idea what the one in the left-hand corner might be? It's pretty obvious, really, isn't it? Aboriginal attractions. The one on the right, wineries. The one in the middle.
History.
Very good. And the one on the bottom tells you where there's large cameras. Now obviously, a lookout or a very good attraction. So they are incredibly important. We do know that. Tourist signposting in New South Wales is actually managed through a partnership with Destination New South Wales and Roads and Maritime Services. The key issues for the signposting program, and I know signposting is incredibly important to some of you, especially out in the regions, but first and foremost, this signposting strategy, this policy, deals with getting the visitor to your destination safely. That is the major consideration. Plus, secondly, to inform the visitor, what is in your regions? What attractions do you have there? And services available within the destination. Now, some of you may be aware of this document. Some of you may not. It's the current manual, the tourist attraction manual, tourist signposting manual, that guides the delivery of our program. It was actually written in 2012. There's a new one coming out in 2016. Some of the research and the findings will actually go into this new policy. If you'd like a copy of this, if you're involved in signposting, if you'd like to know whether you qualify for signposting, it's worth getting a copy of this. We're more than happy to send them out to you. The structure of TASAC who makes the decisions on signposting, the Tourist Attraction Signposting Assessment Committee. We have monthly meetings. So it's one of the few times that the New South Wales government actually comes out into your area. I'm sure some of you are well aware of it. Steve, you're all pretty common. I know you all turn up to a lot of the meetings. Out of 12 meetings, there's about 8 to 9 that are actually in the local regions. So they're open to the public. If you've got any questions about signposting, if you want a signpost, go to your next Tourist Attraction Signposting Assessment meeting. TASAC is made up of representatives from Destination New South Wales. David Douglas is the current chairman. It's also made up from representatives of RMS, and we also have a TASAC secretariat that's contracted, who will take the notes and deals really with most of the administration. You can see the secretariat assesses applications, deals with the applications, maintains records and administration. From our focus, Destination New South Wales, what we're really interested in is maintaining and ensuring that the visitor has a wonderful experience. Their experience is key for us. Whereas RMS, Roads and Maritime Services, you can see they look after all the technical side. They're the ones that bring their expertise. Technical issues, road safety, safety design, and the locations of the sign. So between the two of us, we're able to bring this policy together. Destination New South Wales, well, it was actually Tourism New South Wales, in 2007 conducted some research into signposting. That was the last time we'd done any research. And that was basically from the stakeholders' perspective. We decided that it was time to conduct some new research, and it was also in our Visitor Economy Industry Action Plan, Action 22D. That's almost like the Bible for Destination New South Wales. It's all about doubling overnight visitor expenditure in New South Wales. So we decided we needed some more research, find out if the policy needed changing, and more importantly, what the visitors' and consumers' perspectives and opinions were. So the idea of the research was to find out consumer and stakeholders' perception of tourist signposting and consumer and signposting needs and expectations in relation to the attractions that are signposted. I know some of you in this room were interviewed. Is that not right? Mr. Rose, I think you were, weren't you? Yes. So as I said, this research will then inform the update to the policy and the new manual that's coming out. The objectives: inform changes if they're necessary to the eligibility criteria for signposting. So not everyone can have signposting. If we did that, the streets and the roads would be full of signposts. Inform improvements to signposting policy and inform the communication strategies for tourist signposting. So how did we do the research? It was done in 3 stages. Number 1 was qualitative research with consumers that involved focus groups. Number 2 was an online survey, fairly extensive. And number 3, in-depth interviews with stakeholders. As I said, some of you are actually in the room today. The focus group, a couple of small groups. It was to explore the perceptions and help inform the development of the online survey itself. And we had to have criteria. What was the criteria to participate in the focus group? If you'd been on a driving holiday 1 or more nights in New South Wales in the past 6 months. We had 2 focus groups, one in Dubbo and one in Parramatta. Now the reason for that was we didn't want there to be any city versus country bias. So that was the reason for the 2 focus groups. Once we got the information from the focus groups, it helped us with the survey. And the best way of doing this survey was by doing it online. And as you can see, fairly substantial, 1,119 respondents. And they weren't all from Sydney. You can see 30% from Sydney, 43% from regional New South Wales, 7% from ACT, 10% Victoria, and 10% from Queensland. We also wanted to ensure that we got a fairly even demographic spread. So you can see the various ages. And that led us to some interesting conclusions. 21% 18 to 34-year-olds, 33% 35 to 54-year-olds, 23% 55 to 64, and 23% 65 plus. And we almost made an even split with the male and the female gender there, with respondents. The people we interviewed, the criteria was that they had to have at least driven and had a holiday in New South Wales, a driving holiday, at least of 1 night in New South Wales over the past 12 months. What did the research tell us? Well, sometimes research is not surprising. Sometimes it is. And I guess here we had a lot of anecdotal evidence, but it's helped back us up in that the brown tourist signs were well understood. The question here, number 18, there are different colour schemes for signposting on the roads in New South Wales. Do you recognise any of the following schemes as being used for particular types of signs? You can see the brown signs, the green signs, obviously the most common on the road network, probably most highly recognised. The blue signs not so. Brown signs, our tourist signs, which you utilise for your attractions and your VICs, reasonably well recognised. Probably the most satisfying for us was this here. Now, this involves 3 questions. Have you seen these sorts of signs before, meaning the brown signs? Did you use any of these types of signs on your last trip in New South Wales to help you navigate? Yes, 52%. This was probably most pleasing for us. Did any of these signs prompt you to visit a tourist site that you had not originally planned to visit? So these brown and white tourist signs, they are working. 36% of people said, yes, we weren't going to go somewhere, but the brown sign indicated that it might be worthwhile visiting. So they are working, and they're working well. Something also interesting came out. Once again, anecdotal evidence, but we've got the research here to back it up. Consumers travelling with children, as well as couples travelling alone, were the least likely to plan the places that they would visit before their last trip. So those of you that have VICs, there's an opportunity there for you. Children and couples have an open itinerary. There's an opportunity for you to sell product, to sell your destination to those people. And they're also the most likely to report being prompted by a sign or a visit to an attraction. So it tells us that signage is working and there is value. But don't just, and I know Liz, where is she? Where's Liz Ward? Liz is going to talk about digital world as well. Don't just concentrate on the physical sign. We also did some surveys about digital navigation. That's incredibly important as well. You can see here, just as many people are using a GPS as they are for road signs. The question was, which of the following were used for navigating during your last trip? Everyone answered that question, 1,119 people. And when I talked about anecdotal evidence and the research backing up what we think we know, the one down the bottom, the statement down the bottom, 18 to 34-year-olds, 78% use smartphones or GPS and only 35% use the road signs. So what does this mean for you? This means that's fine to have your road signs, but don't forget about digital maps. Don't forget to have your VIC or your attraction listed digitally, because we know, anecdotally we know, but now we know for sure that people are actually using those. So we move to the criteria. How do you get a sign? What do you need to have a brown and white sign? You need to be a well-established attraction. You need adequate car parking. Those of you that have applied to TASAC probably know these very well. You need publicly accessible toilets. Open to casual visitors. Pre-booking not required. Why is that? Because we don't, remember, we're all about improving and exceeding the visitor's expectation and improving their experience. It'd be very disappointing if it was all totally pre-booked. The visitor says, I'd like to go there, they can't get in. So we've directed them with a brown sign to your attraction, but they can't get in. It's fully booked. So that's the reason for being open to casual visitors. Open on weekends, why? That's when most visitors travel. Now we have left it fairly open, 5 days a week, not 7 days a week, and 6 hours a day. Opening hours are permanently displayed at the entrance. Once again, why is that? If you're at the end of a long drive, 5 kilometres to get into your property, they're going to be quite disappointed if they get there and you're closed. At least if they can see the times that you're open, it makes it easier for the visitor. Current brochure is available with opening hours and contact information. Well, we're looking at that at the moment. And descriptive or educational information is provided about the place. Now, the reason for that is the visitor gets there and the next tour is in half an hour. It will improve their experience. They learn a bit more about your attraction, and it gives them something to do in that half an hour before the next tour. Consumer awareness and signposting eligibility. Well, guess what? Visitor didn't know much about that. The consumer didn't know. They didn't actually think that there were criteria. There were 6 criteria that 10 criteria, and there were 6 that came out of the focus group. So we added those in as well. They were meeting safety standards, high quality, an up-to-date website approved by the New South Wales government. So some people assume that if you had a brown and white sign, it must be approved by the New South Wales government. Popular with people on holidays and wheelchair accessible. Visitors said that they thought the most important criteria was that it must be safe. Must meet safety standards. That obviously there must be toilets, there must be adequate parking, and it must be open to casual visitors. So the highest rating feature, as far as hours go, was that it must be open on the weekend. Their expectation of the brown and white signs. Once again, stating the obvious, but it's good to have it in black and white, I guess, that if we're going to signpost something, it's worthwhile going to. It's interesting. Now, obviously that's subjective from their point of view, but that it's interesting or worthwhile, and there's descriptive information available there. This was interesting, this result as well. Now, we currently review the signposting every 5 years, but the consumer's telling us, oh no, it should be done every 2 years. So that was what also came out of the research as well. The good thing is, your businesses are meeting the visitors' expectations. 83% of visitors said that when they got to your visitor centre, your attraction, it's met their expectations. So whatever you're doing really well. And there were no clear differences between demographics. Didn't matter whether it was male, female, what age it was. They're all very, very happy with what they'd experienced. So the consumer probably wasn't really aware of TASAC and the signposting policy. However, our stakeholders were. Here's some of their feedback. We went to 12 industry representatives who either had a relationship with TASAC or who we actually forward applications to have certain knowledge and expertise. They were the Camping and Caravan Association in New South Wales, Museum and Galleries New South Wales, New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife, local government, New South Wales Wine and Industry Association, regional tourism organisations, Office Environment and Heritage, the New South Wales Business Chamber, Tourism Industry Division, and the National Roads and Motorist Association. Now, we interviewed those either face-to-face or online, and the questions we asked them were about their expectations of the program, how well the program is working for them and their region, and any improvements that they would actually like to see. What we also did, we also showed them a summary of the research and got them to comment on what the consumers were saying as well. Excuse me. Overall perceptions. Most of the stakeholders thought that the signposting policy and strategy was actually working really well. Seen as beneficial as promoting tourism in their area, it was a benefit to them and their stakeholders. Obviously, most commercial operators were very, very keen to obtain signage, and there'd been some or a lot of positive interaction with TASAC. They thought the benefits were obviously helping regional tourism, helping the regional destinations, dispersing visitors throughout the area, and reassuring visitors about their experiences. But of course, there's always comments. Some of the stakeholders felt there were grounds for flexibility in the criteria, dealing with issues such as seasonality, regional locations, and multiple entry points to attractions, particularly if you've got a large attraction or a national park, for an example, visitors are coming from various directions where you put the brown and white signposts. Guidelines were seen by some as being too focused on the consumer perspective and not taking attraction needs or suggestions into consideration. We'll talk about that in a little while. And some needs seem to evolving regional tourism branding. However, there was a general agreement on the importance of consistency. And one of the big issues that has come up is the proliferation of signage and the signage on state and local roads. And just remember, TASAC only has a responsibility for state roads, not for the local roads. That's a responsibility usually of your local council. The needs and expectation of consumers were assuming that the signposts would give them an informative, exciting, wonderful, interpretive experience. Once again, as I said, consumers expected that we would reassess every 2 years rather than every 5 years. You'll see later in some of the recommendations that may not really be possible. Some attractions felt other businesses lacked awareness and the understanding of the program, and promotion of the program to other tourism businesses by state and local government agencies would help the presentation of applications and allay any perceptions of bureaucracy. So we've got some really good feedback from industry here. And simplifying the application process was also noted as an area for improvement. So don't think we're just glossing this over. We've actually been really appreciative. And any of you that were involved, Steve Rosa was, in this research, if you're here today, it was really appreciated, because without your feedback, we're not able to update our policy. Once again, the issue of integration, inconsistency of signposting on state and local roads, the use of different types of signs on local roads would reduce the effectiveness of the program. My colleague David Douglas has suggested that perhaps when you're looking at your DMPs, there's nothing stopping you incorporating what's in here. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you don't have a signposting policy and you'd like to consider one for your local area, talk to David. I've got his details here for you. Utilise what's in here. It's already been done. It might make it easier for you. And we do know, without a shadow of a doubt, that signposting is incredibly important. There was also a couple of suggestions to recognise other developments, such as theme drives, major cultural attractions. We've started that. With current examples are the Grand Pacific Drive, Kidman Way, and the legendary Pacific Coast. They're doing incredibly well. So there are possibilities for extending this implementation in the future. In conclusion, from the consumer's perspective, the brown and white signs perceived as helpful, and they play a useful role. What could we do better? I guess improve the understanding of consumers of the program through signage, through local, state and federal websites. Might be useful. And perhaps there's a role for visitor information centres to also extend the knowledge of the program. Expectations of the signposting were high, with little awareness of the minimum standards of the criteria. So maybe tighter implementation of the criteria to meet the consumer's expectations. Remember, from DNSW's point of view, our focus is on improving or exceeding the visitor's expectations and their experience. Roads and Maritime Services, their major focus is on safety. And there you go, report eligibility criteria is the safety, awareness of toilets, access to toilets and car parking. So basic facilities and flexibility of visitation to be highlighted as key benefits. And stakeholders. Program once again was seen as beneficial, but we need to ensure ongoing effective maintenance and the placement of signs. There's a big issue there, obviously. And that also applies to local government as well. No point having signs out on the road network if people can't read them. No point having signs out on the road network if it's covered by a tree. I think we all know that. So, for you that are in the local area, if you've got a VIC and you've got a sign, go out. I know it sounds silly, but go out, I know Steve does this, go out and drive up and down the road. Make sure that signs can be seen. It's pretty simple. If you've got a tree growing over it, ask the council, can you cut that back, please? Because we know how important signage is. Better promotion to commercial operators. We're going to try and educate business about the program, how it operates, and the best way to present applications. We're looking at an online application, which should speed the whole process up. Consistent implementation favoured by most. So there was some consideration about flexibility, changing the application criteria around the number of days, the hours of operation. That's still being considered right now. Integration of the program with local signage. This is what I was talking about before. Consider a broader approach to signposting, which includes an overarching destination management plan. So in your destination management plan, if you don't have a signposting strategy, I'd seriously consider it. As I said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of the information's in here for you. Better use of technology to enhance access by consumers to information, and that's what we're looking at as well. Particularly technology when it comes to applying for signposting. It'll make it quicker, easier, and more efficient. So in conclusion, I think I'm ahead of time, am I, John? Well ahead of time? Good time for questions. It's important to maintain the integrity of the program to maximise the visitor experience. Remember, that's what Destination New South Wales is about, maximising the visitor experience. Practical features of site attractions are most important. Those simple things, toilets and parking. What does that tell us? tells us if you've got toilets and parking, there's a good chance they'll pull over anyway. And access to more information beyond the signs will enhance the program. So maybe there's some way the visitor information centres can work with the signposting program. Stakeholders are telling us that we do need to evolve, we incorporate the evolving needs of the tourism sector. The program's beneficial to tourism. We need to look at that consistency in the signposting, but just remember that TASAC is only responsible for the state roads. The local roads are the responsibility of your local council. So it'd be nice if there could be some consistency between the two. Is there scope for flexibility in applying criteria? TASAC's looking at that right now. And digital platforms offer an opportunity to enhance the information. So if you are interested, we can get a copy of this to you. We can get the new one out to you. It's going to be reprinted in July 2016. The TASAC policy should be updated probably May, June this year, and there'll be a reprint done. If you're after more information, you go, yes, I'd like a brown and white sign for my attraction or for my visitor information centre. Where can you find the information? You can find it on destinationnewsouthwales.com.au/TASAC. Whole series of questions here. How do I get tourist signs? Where can I get an application? Now, if that doesn't answer your questions, my colleague, David Douglas, more than happy to answer the questions for you. There's his details there. I've got his business card here if anyone's interested. I'm happy to hand that out. And there's the next 4 meetings. And you can actually see, there's the proof in the pudding. I told you we're going to the regions. Here they are here. The next 4 meetings, if they're in your area, I'd recommend you visit. Get some information about signposting. So Bega the 17th of March, Mullumbimby the 20th of April, Lura the 8th of May, and Wyong the 15th of June. Not one of those is in Sydney. So TASAC actually comes out to the region. So we've been doing this for many years now, and as I said, I think out of about 12 meetings a year, 10 are actually in the regions. Thank you for your time, and once again, I'd just like to say, with the visitor information servicing research, I will get the details off John or from LGNSW, and I will send you out, personally send you out a copy of the executive summary, and that should answer nearly every question that you've actually got. It's quite extensive, we were quite pleased with it, but unfortunately, as I said, the circumstances out beyond our control, we couldn't release it at this function. Thank you for your time, and hope you enjoy the conference. Thank you very much.